Welcome to MTG Burgeoning, a channel for all things magic. In this video, we are going to discuss the quintessential cards needed to build the core of a life gain commander deck with Liesa, Shroud of Dusk as the general. Liesa, Shroud of Dusk debuted in Commander Legends and is a 5/5 angel with flying and lifelink for 2 white, and 1 black mana. Rather than paying 2 mana for each previous time we have cast Liesa from the command zone this game, we pay 2 life that many times instead. Our general should be a lightning rod for attention, and utilizing our life total to mitigate Liesa's accrued commander tax helps us to get her back onto the battlefield for the purposes of piloting our life drain engine. This life drain engine revolves around Liesa's second ability. Whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life. Yes, this ability affects all players, which means that we lose 2 life each time we cast a spell. But we will have planned for this inevitability, while our opponents will be caught off guard by their need to evaluate their life total each time they consider casting a spell. For the purposes of taking advantage of Liesa's abilities, as well as hedging against these losses of life, we will sculpt the core of this build with various life gain and life drain spells and abilities. With our robust life total, a sizable portion of which will be derived from our opponent's own life totals, we can cast our spells unimpeded by thoughts of compiling numerous instances of life loss, while our opponents must consider their dwindling life totals as hindrances to their plans and desired gameplay. As a chasm-like discrepancy develops between our life total and our opponents, we eventually drain their life completely and claim victory after victory after victory. We begin the core of this build with some spells and abilities that drain life from our opponents and add it to ours. Bantu's Monument reduces the cost of our black creature spells by 1, and whenever we cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and we gain 1 life. Whenever a creature attacks us or a planeswalker we control, Revenge of Ravens has that creature's controller lose 1 life and we gain 1 life. Note that this enchantment is triggered by each attacking creature. If an opponent attacks us with 3 creatures, then they lose 3 life and we gain 3 life. At the beginning of our upkeep, Drana's Emissary has each opponent lose 1 life and we gain 1 life. If we choose dragons when it comes into play, then Palace Siege has each opponent lose 2 life and we gain 2 life at the beginning of our upkeep. If we have the City's Blessing, then at the beginning of our upkeep, Twilight Prophet has us reveal the top card of our library and put it into our hand. Each opponent loses X life and we gain X life, where X is that card's mana value. Through the Prophet's Ascend mechanic, we get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game as long as we control at least 10 permanents. Whenever we gain life, both Cliffhaven Vampire and Marauding Blight Priest have each opponent lose 1 life. At the beginning of our end step, if we gained at least 3 life this turn, Indulging Patrician has each opponent lose 3 life. It's not a life drain ability, but at the beginning of our upkeep, Creeping Bloodsucker deals 1 point of damage to each opponent, and we gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. Artifacts and creatures our opponents control enter the battlefield tapped with Blind Obedience. This enchantment also has Extort, which means that we can pay a white or a black mana whenever we cast a spell. If we do, then each opponent loses 1 life and we gain life equal to the life lost this way. Tithe Drinker has Extort and Lifelink. Cryptghast also has Extort, and whenever we tap a swamp for mana, we add an additional black mana to our mana pool. Pontiff of Blight has Extort and gives Extort to other creatures we control. If any of our aforementioned creatures with Extort are paired with Pontiff of Blight, then each of them would have multiple instances of it, and each instance of Extort would trigger separately. That's a lot of life drain. We can pay 1 white and a black mana to activate this Copa Guildmage's abilities to either have target creature gain lifelink until end of turn, or whenever we gain life this turn, each opponent loses that much life. When Grey Merchant of Asphodel enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is our devotion to black. We gain life equal to the life lost this way. To factor our devotion to black, we count the number of black mana symbols and the casting costs of permanents we control. Exsanguinate has each opponent lose X life, and we gain life equal to the life lost this way. Debt to the Deathless is even better, as each opponent loses 2 times X life. We also gain life equal to the life lost this way. Debt to the Deathless outperforms Exsanguinate when each spell is cast for more than 6 mana. Now let's add some peripheral sources of life drain and life gain through the basic fundamentals of playing Magic the Gathering. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, both Suture Priest and Ilash Il Kor's Sadistic Pilgrim have us gain 1 life. For the Priest, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, we may have that player lose 1 life. And for the Pilgrim, whenever another creature we control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. The Meat Hook Massacre does the same, in addition to having us gain 1 life whenever a creature an opponent controls dies. We can pay 2 black mana to cast the Meat Hook Massacre, or we can pay X as well to have each creature get -X until end of turn when this enchantment enters the battlefield. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, Combo Council of Allocation has that player lose 2 life, and we gain 2 life. Whenever we draw a card, Sheoldred the Apocalypse gains us 2 life, while our opponents lose 2 life whenever they draw a card. For targeted life drain abilities, Blood Artist has target player lose 1 life, and we gain 1 life whenever she or another creature dies. At the beginning of our end step, Astarion the Decadent provides 2 triggered abilities from which to choose. Either target opponent loses life equal to the amount of life they lost this turn, or we gain life equal to the amount of life we gained this turn. For simple life gain abilities, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, both Soul Warden and Soul's Attendant gain us 1 life. Daxos, Blessed by the Sun, gains us 1 life whenever another creature we control comes into play or dies. Authority of the Councils gains us 1 life whenever a creature enters a battlefield under an opponent's control. Those creatures also come into play tapped. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, we put a +1/+1 counter on Sunscorch Regent, and we gain 1 life. Since gaining life is an important feature for the core of this build, let's add a slew of cards that reward us for doing so, beginning with every Magic player's favorite part of the game, drawing cards. Whenever we gain life, Well of Lost Dreams provides us the option of paying X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life we gained. If we do, then we draw X cards. Dawn of Hope has a similar ability, except we pay 2 to draw a card whenever we gain life. This enchantment also has a mana sink, where we can pay 3 and 1 white mana and create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. When Sigarda's Splendor enters the battlefield, we note our life total. At the beginning of our upkeep, if our life total is greater than or equal to the last noted life total for Sigarda's Splendor, then we draw a card. Then we note our life total once again. As an additional life-gaining bonus, whenever we cast a white spell, Sigarda's Splendor gains us 1 life. At the beginning of our end step, if we gained life this turn, then we may pay 2. If we do, then Markov Purifier draws us a card. Now let's advance our board state by creating some creature tokens through our life gain engine. At the beginning of our end step, if we gained at least 3 life this turn, then Griffin Airy creates a 2/2 white Griffin creature token with flying. If our life is at least 7 more than our starting life total, then we can tap Speaker of the Heavens and create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. We can activate this ability only as a sorcery. As long as we have gained 4 or more life this turn, Angelic Accord creates these same creature tokens at the beginning of each end step. If we gained 4 or more life this turn, then Valkyrie Harbinger creates a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance at the beginning of each end step. Resplendent Angel does the same if we gained 5 or more life during a turn. She also has an activated ability that gives her +2/+2 and lifelink until the end of turn. Now that our battlefield is inundated with creatures, let's enhance them. Righteous Valkyrie gives creatures we control +2/+2 as long as our life total is at least 7 more than our starting life total. As a bonus, whenever another cleric or angel enters a battlefield under our control, we gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Whenever we gain life, Heliod Suncrown puts a +1/+1 counter on target creature or enchantment we control. Heliod also has an activated ability that gives another target creature lifelink until end of turn. Heliod is an indestructible enchantment that is only a creature when his devotion to white is at least 5. Whenever we gain life, the oh-so-powerful Archangel of Thune puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control. In this build, she is considered a win condition. For some additional utility, Rodolph Duskbringer has a life gain-dependent recursive ability. He is a 4/4 with flying, death touch, and lifelink, and gains indestructible until end of turn whenever we gain life. At the beginning of our end step, we may pay 1 and a white or a black mana. If we do, then we return target creature card with mana value X or less from our graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life we gained this turn. Celestine, the Living Saint, does the same without having to pay mana. At the beginning of our end step, if we gained life this turn, then Witch of the Moors has each opponent sacrifice a creature, while we return a creature card from our graveyard to our hand. In our build, gaining life is vital, so gaining extra life is even better. Whenever we gain life, Angel of Vitality gains us that much life +1 instead. It also gets +2/+2 as long as we have 25 or more life, which in EDH, and with this type of build, should be easier than Sunday morning. Eternity Vessel enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it, where X is our life total. Through this artifact's landfall mechanic, we may have our life total become the number of charge counters on Eternity Vessel whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control. Note that other cards that interact with life gain also interact with this effect because we are gaining life. Beacon of Immortality doubles target player's life total and then is shuffled back into our library upon resolution. The revenge side of Revival Revenge doubles our life total and has target opponent lose half of their life total rounded down. Note that these spells' effects count as life gain. Revival also returns target creature card with mana value 3 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield. If we would gain life, then Rock's Faithmender, Boon Reflection, and Alhamaret's Archive gain us twice that much life instead. If we would draw a card except for the first one we draw in each of our draw steps, the Archive draws us 2 cards instead. These life gain accelerators are considered win conditions in this build. Speaking of win conditions, whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to a player, Angel of Destiny has us and that player each gain that much life. At the beginning of our end step, if we have at least 15 more life than our starting life total, then each player Angel of Destiny attacked this turn loses the game. For the purposes of speeding up our opponent's losses of life, Wound Reflection and Archfiend of Despair have each opponent lose life equal to the life they lost this turn at the beginning of each end step. The Archfiend also prevents opponents from gaining life. Now let's close out this video with a sampling of cards that further synergizes with and enhances our life gain theme. Serra Ascendant easily should be a 6/6 with flying and lifelink, and Divinity of Pride easily should be an 8/8 with flying and lifelink as well. Note that the mana values of these two creatures, respectively, are just 1 and 5. At the beginning of our end step, Cosmos Elixir draws us a card if our life total is greater than our starting life total. If it is not, then we gain 2 life. Whenever we lose life, Villas, Broker of Blood, draws us that many cards. We can pay a black mana and 2 life to give target creature -1/-1 until end of turn. When alongside Liesa, Villas draws us 2 cards whenever we cast a spell through our general's life loss triggered ability. We also can pay life to keep our hand full of cards. Greed draws us a card when we pay a black mana and 2 life. We skip our draw step with Necropotence, but if we pay 1 life, then we exile the top card of our library face down. We then put that card into our hand at the beginning of our next end step. At the beginning of our pre-combat main phase, Black Market Connections provides 3 options from which to choose, and we choose 1 or more. We lose 1 life and create a treasure token. We lose 2 life and draw a card. We lose 3 life and create a 3/2 colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. Remember, a creature with Changeling has every creature type. Since we plan to sport a robust life total throughout the game, we should include additional ways to use it as a resource. With Bolas's Citadel, we may look at the top card of our library at any time. We may play lands and cast spells from the top of our library, and if we cast a spell this way, then we pay life equal to its mana value rather than pay its mana cost. We also can tap this legendary artifact and sacrifice 10 non-land permanents to have each opponent lose 10 life. Whenever we cast a spell, Aetherflux Reservoir gains us 1 life for each spell we've cast this turn. We can pay 50 life and deal 50 damage to any target. With the various double life-gaining abilities showcased earlier in this video, Aetherflux Reservoir can get out of hand very, very quickly. We also could one-shot an opponent with Hatred. As an additional cost to cast this spell, we pay X life. Target creature gets +X/+O until end of turn through this instant speed enhancement. For more life drain alternate win conditions, whenever we gain life, Sanguine Bond, Defiant Bloodlord, and Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose have target opponent lose that much life. Whenever an opponent loses life, Exquisite Blood gains us that much life. When paired together, we form a game-ending loop that ends after we win the game, or an opponent disrupts the loop. Speaking of game-ending loops, the duo of Bloodchief Ascension and Mindcrank has it in spades. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost at least 2 life, then we put a quest counter on Bloodchief Ascension. Whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, if Bloodchief Ascension has at least 3 quest counters on it, then we may have that player lose 2 life. If we do, then we gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent loses life, Mindcrank mills that player that many cards. In unison, these 2 cards can knock an opponent out of the game the moment they put a card into their graveyard, or whenever they lose life. Lastly, and sure to cause their share of groans at the table, are Felidar Sovereign and Test of Endurance. At the beginning of our upkeep, if we have 40 or more life, Felidar Sovereign wins us the game. And if we have 50 or more life, Test of Endurance wins us the game. Hopefully, there will be more games to win versus these same opponents. This video provided a blueprint for building the core of a life-gain commander deck with Liesa, Shroud of Dusk as the general. The cards showcased during this video are suggested options for crafting the thematic core of a life-gain EDH deck, in addition to providing ways of optimizing this theme. Removal spells, disruption, ramp, and the land base can vary from build to build, and also are dependent on metagame preferences and availability. In building around videos like this one, these deck components are left in the hands of each individual deck brewer. If you found this video appealing, then be sure to check out our other building around videos through the playlist on your screen. Also be sure to check out our other deck building series, and don't forget to let me know your thoughts about the core of this Liesa life gain build in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.